But I don't know how many backgammon boards I've now designed. And it's limitless and exciting as to how many there are ahead. I've got so many ideas of what I want to do in terms of materials. As I answer this question, my mind's going. I've always made things, and I've always loved creating, and I've always loved materials. And when I started making backgammon boards, I saw them as a vehicle to work with all these incredible workshops around the UK, different techniques and materials. I didn't intend on making games when I started, but then I found myself in this space, and it's such a joy, bringing people together. So it was sort of serendipitous, and what an amazing niche to be in, really. I studied painting, and painting is, I think, where I hope I will always go back to. But I always made, I had I called it a treasure pile. My mother called it my junk pile underneath my desk. And I always loved creating, making, doing things. First and foremost, it's a game. So it's about the geometry, it's about the play, the weight of the materials, the way they work on the surfaces, and it needs to be ultimately playable. But then it becomes this incredible canvas to weave stories and meanings into. And that inspiration comes from many places. So, first of all, there are the most amazing workshops that I work with, and they're constantly teaching me. We're sort of informing each other, and that's a huge part of the process. Then, of course, clients, because 70% of my business is making bespoke pieces, which are hardly ever seen because they're private pieces. And for those, it's really about submerging myself in the client's world, and it's amazing. I might one day dive into the world of cricket and another dive into the history of a country, so as a creative, it's incredible because it takes me to all these different places. So once the client has decided what direction that they want to go in, it starts really with a close conversation with me. And I've become very good at extricating information. I start by discussing different aspects of their life, or why they are commissioning this piece, be it a commemoration or to just fit a particular room. And then I will, really dive into the subject matter and research. I always say to the client, as much information and imagery and everything that they can give me, even if it's a picture of their house or something they love or an artwork that's inspired them, just helps me get into their aesthetic and into their head. But I suppose the magic happens. So, I love the design process, and then the magic happens when we translate that into really making the piece and into the materials. What I think is so important is the storytelling, especially when it's for an individual client or for a brand or a hotel or something like that. And I love including elements that they might not even notice the first time, but it would be on the second game, the third game, or the fourth time they open that box or sit at that table. When I was creating bespoke, and to begin with, we were just making backgammon boards. Now we do all sorts of other things, but I would hand paint all of the bespoke commissions, but that would happen between 10 p.m. and 4 a.m. And so I needed to find another way as demand grew and as we had more and more commissions on. And so I discovered marquetry, which was a technique I knew, but I hadn't ever kind of employed or used before. And it is like painting with wood. It's using lots of tiny bits of different wood veneers, different colors, different grains to create an image. And it's about the way the light hits it, and it's absolutely fascinating. So I now, when I'm designing a marquetry piece, think in terms of marquetry, and that has been the most wonderful kind of journey of discovery. But materials are endlessly fascinating, and I think something we're doing a lot at the moment. It all started with a project where I sourced Martian meteorite, and that started a friendship with my meteor dealer, who has just sent us some lunar rock, and we've just been in the studio putting that in a pestle and mortar, grinding it into different grades and size. And for example, I want to make a pigment with the finer sort of dust in order to paint and use in resin, and then we're using different sized rocks to maybe set in precious metals, and that is amazing because you hold something and it's from space. That's a really good way of putting things into perspective. I love collecting antique games pieces. So for example, over there, I've got a pair of Roman dice, and that is just phenomenal. So those dice have been used in games for 2,000 years. So you sit and you hold them and you think of all of the laughter, the fights, the fun, the memories that have happened with that pair of dice is just kind of mind-blowing. So that connection to history as well as outer space, is amazing. A very beautiful piece that we made that was quite challenging was the client wanted to commission a piece that was completely black. So all the elements were there. But of course, in a game, you need contrast between all of the pieces. So it was hand carved out of solid black marble. And then we had contrast we used black obsidian, volcanic glass, highly polished for one side, and then 30 million year old fossilized tree that we made rough for the other side. That was an interesting creative challenge that ended up creating such a beautiful piece, But I think it's just all the stories. I recently made a very wonderful table for a client who wanted to reflect his cultural heritage and be able to play on this game and show his friends and family he lived somewhere else, show them where he came from. So that was reflected in the games themselves, but also we used architecture and kind of stories and points from where he's from. So he could sit at these games, entertain his friends, and also talk about himself and explain himself in that kind of context, points that are really, really special and important to him. So many people come to me having played these games with members of their family, maybe their grandparents or great friends, or they started playing on an amazing holiday. And so they have these extraordinary associations with the games. Or they come to me and they've never played before. And that's such a joy to teach them, because so many of these games are so quick to learn, but to master might take a lifetime. Backgammon, as an example, you can pick up after 2 games, but to get really good will literally take a lifetime. In some ways, we're really lucky. There is no archetypal client. We have complete spread between genders, clients all over the world from completely different backgrounds, which selfishly, creatively is just wonderful, because that, each one is so completely different. I suppose there's definitely people who appreciate beauty and appreciate craftsmanship, and appreciate that process that goes into it. I suppose also the act of commissioning something bespoke, people who are looking for something that you won't find anywhere else. There's either utterly individual or, as I said before, celebrate something particular, but that is, you literally won't ever find anywhere else, and has that personal collection. So, and that's exciting because those clients get it. I am most proud of where this business has come. It's been an extraordinary journey. I had no experience of running a business. I really started the business from nothing. And so I have learnt on the way. And it's rather amazing now. I started this journey 15 years ago. So it's very incredible now to reflect back on those times and everything that I've learnt, and how my designs are now informed by that, those years. I'm incredibly proud of what we make. I have an amazing team, and we make magic happen. And that's, what more could I wish for? It's always what I wanted to do as a child, was just make beautiful things, and here I am.